Welcome to Disneyland Hotel Diaries, the series where we dig into the hotels all around the resort. Today, we are looking at one with some of the most, divided reviews we've ever come across, the Signature Anaheim Maingate. Some people say it's a fantastic budget find, but others, they tell some real horror stories. So, what is the real deal here? Let's find out.
All right, let's just rip the Band-Aid off right away. On TripAdvisor, out of 126 hotels in Anaheim, this one is ranked number 112. Yeah, that's pretty far down the list. So you have to wonder, what is going on here? You know, when you start scrolling through the reviews, you see this crazy split. You've got one group of people saying, hey, for the price, it's perfectly fine. And then you have another group sharing some really concerning experiences. So our mission today is to get to the bottom of it and find out what the real story is behind that ranking. So here's how we're going to break it all down. First, we'll talk about its location. Then we'll get into the rooms themselves and try to figure out why everyone's experience is so different. After that, we'll weigh the good against the bad, the bright spots versus the red flags. And we'll wrap it all up with our final verdict on who this hotel might actually be for. Okay, first things first, location, right? How close you are to the park can totally make or break your trip. So let's see how the Signature really measures up.
Now, the hotel is on South Harbor Boulevard, which is, the main drag that leads right to Disneyland. But, and this is a big but, don't let that address fool you. It's not one of those hotels you can just casually stroll from. Review after review says it's about a 10-minute drive to the park. The bottom line here? You've got to factor in getting a ride or taking the bus. This is definitely not a walk back from midday nap kind of place.
All right, let's get to the most important part, and honestly, where this whole story gets really interesting, the room itself. This is where it feels like guests are staying in two completely different hotels. So is it a hidden gem or is it a huge gamble? So let's start with the good side of the story. We saw a bunch of reviews just like this one. People who said the place was clean, the staff was great, really friendly and helpful. And for these guests, it seems like it did exactly what it needed to do. Gave them a simple, clean place to crash after a super long day at Disney. But then, you see things that tell a totally different story. And these are actual photos from other guests. This is what they found. A stray hair on what's supposed to be clean bedding. Stains on the towels. This right here is where you start to see the gamble. It really seems like cleanliness is a bit of a lottery.
And the potential issues don't just stop with how clean it is. We found reports about maintenance problems, too. I mean, just look at this picture from a traveler. That is literally a piece of furniture being held up by a block of wood. It just makes you wonder about the general upkeep of the whole place. And this is where things take a much more serious turn. Because for some people, the problems they ran into went way beyond just comfort or things looking a little run down. They stepped into the territory of genuine safety concerns. Okay, this is, without a doubt, the single most alarming photo we found in the reviews. A guest took a picture of their ceiling and that's a missing fire alarm. Just gone, with the wiring exposed and hanging down. And get this, the reviewer said they reported it and it was never fixed during their entire 3-day stay. I mean, that's not just bad service, that is a major safety issue. And, on that note, if you find these kinds of deep dives into the hotels useful, please just take a second to subscribe and write this explainer. It really does help us out a ton and lets us make more of these for you. Okay, let's take a breath and step back for a second to put all of these pieces together. Because to really get a handle on this hotel, you've got to weigh the good stuff against those really, really concerning negatives we just saw. So here's the trade-off in a nutshell. On the one hand, the bright spots are pretty clear. It's got a low price point, some people say the staff is really friendly, and hey, there's a pool and a hot tub. But those red flags, they're pretty serious. We're talking major safety concerns, that cleanliness lottery we mentioned, and we even saw reports about a really noisy neighborhood that kept people awake at night. Honestly, this one quote from a reviewer just sums the whole thing up perfectly. It's all about keeping your expectations in check for what you're paying. This place isn't trying to be the Grand Californian, right? It's all about the price. But I think the key word in that whole sentence is hopefully. So, after combing through all the reviews, looking at the pictures, and weighing the pros and cons, what's the final verdict? Should you even consider the Signature Anaheim Maingate for your Disney trip? All right, here's what it boils down to. This hotel is not a simple yes or no. It might be an option for you if, and this is a big if, all of these things are true. 1. You are on the absolute tightest budget imaginable. 2. You are fully aware of and willing to accept the potential risks for that super low price. 3. You seriously just see a hotel as a place to sleep and nothing more. And 4, and this one is so important, you are prepared to do a full inspection of your room for safety and cleanliness the second you walk through that door.
So, really, it all comes down to asking yourself one simple question. When it comes to your vacation, how much of a risk are you willing to take just to save a few bucks? Everyone's got a different answer to that. The decision isn't about whether this is a good hotel or a bad one. It's about whether the gamble it represents is a gamble you're willing to take.